Malaysia, the country's inflation rate rose to 1.9% in October 2024, with the consumer price index reaching 132.4, up from 130.9.
Hello everyone. Today, me and my groupmate will be presenting about the rising cost of living in Malaysia. First of all, my name is STHLEY, and I will be focusing on the background of this case, the significance, and the objective of our study.
Electricity up, water bill up.
Firstly, for our background of the issue, cost of living concern have become a serious issue in Malaysia since 2024. This problem affects almost everyone, from the working class to retirees, but is especially hard for the middle and the lower income groups. They are finding it more difficult to cover their daily expenses as prices keep increasing. Even though the government has given subsidies and controlled price for some essential items to help the people, this effort has not been fully effective. According to Assistant Professor Dr. Nazul Hazizi Nordin from the International Islamic University Malaysia, the main problem is that wages are not increasing along with the price. Price has gone up, but wages has stayed the same. This is particularly challenging for the families in the B40 income group who are only earning minimum wages. Even when the minimum wages was increased, it was still not enough to improve their life. Secondly, for the significance of Malaysia economy. The rising cost of living is not just a social problem, but also economy issue. When wages do not increase along with the price, people cannot afford even a basic need such as food. This lower their spending power, which the effect consumer demand in Malaysia. If people spend less, businesses will earn less, especially small and medium enterprise. This will slow down economic growth. In the long term, it may lead problems like unemployment, low productivity, and even push middle-class family into poverty. If this continues, it can delay the country development and reduce public trust in the government economy management.
Stable, steady source of revenues, and that comes through pretty much GST. And this is a political decision.
Lastly, for the objective of our study, the first objective is to analyze the reason behind the rising cost of living in Malaysia. For example, when the government reduced diesel fuel subsidies, diesel price went up. Since transportation and delivery depends on the diesel, this caused the price of many goods to increase. The second objective is to evaluate the impact of rising costs on society. We want to understand how this affects a family, especially in the B40 and M40 groups. Because their expenses keep rising while their wages remain the same. Many families cannot save money or spend on other important needs, affecting their overall financial well-being. The third objective is the government measure to address the issue. For example, programs like Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah (STR) provide cash assistance to low-income families to help with the daily expenses. There are also price support measures the diesel-dependent sector and public transport to stabilize their costs.
In October 2024, Malaysia headline inflation was recorded at 1.9% and core inflation stayed around at 1.8%. Core inflation excludes like fresh food and food, which notes that everyday services like rent, dining out, and basic needs keep increasing steadily. Essential items rose faster than average. Food and drinks increased by 2.7%, and restaurant and accommodation service went up by 2.9%. These are daily costs that all families faces, and with no actual wage growth, the rising price hit B40 and M40 groups the hardest. A major reason for rising costs in 2024 was the diesel subsidy reform. In June 2024, the government removed the blanket diesel subsidy, causing the price of diesel to increase 56% from 2.15 ringgit to 3.35 per litre. While logistics and public transport got targeted subsidy, other sectors like delivery, farming, and retail had to pay the full cost. This resulted in higher transport and distribution costs, which were passed on to consumers, leading to increased price for many daily goods and services. These changes had a direct impact on Malaysia's household. Families now spend more on food, transport, and rent, and are left with less for saving and personal spending. Urban families feel this more to higher cost of childcare, commuting, and housing. The government responds with Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah STHLEY cash aid and plans to review the minimum wage and raise civil servant salary. However, despite this effort, many families, especially in cities, still struggle financially due to rising costs and stagnant wages.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is SITI AZMAH, and I will be leading the discussion on the causes of the rise in cost of living in Malaysia, as well as suggestions on how to combat it. Inflation is the decrease in purchasing power of a currency. According to B&M 2016, inflation can be one of the reasons for the rise in cost of living. When the inflation rate does not align with the wage growth, this can impact overall cost of living. Middle and lower class groups are forced to spend more money for less products, and this is especially true for major cities like Kuala Lumpur. The level of comfort available to a person or community is referred to as standard of living. Previously, things that were considered as luxuries are now slowly becoming necessities, which is a clear indication that the standard of living for many households have increased. COVID-19 specifically have changed the way of living for people, and now fast internet and laptops have become common items in every household. The urbanization rate differs from each state, therefore the inflation rate also differs from one another. Places like Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya experiences a higher gross monthly income as well as a higher standard of living, which causes the inflation rate to be just as high. The people from urban areas are more likely to face problems with affordable pricing and food prices. Now, let's talk about the suggestions on how to decrease the cost of living. First of all, the government needs to revise the minimum wage policies. If the inflation rate continues to increase, then the minimum wage should also increase alongside it. This is to ensure that the people can afford the basic necessities, especially those who work in urban areas, and experience a much higher inflation rate. Next, there should be a better tax system implemented where the T20 groups are taxed higher and the B40 and M40 groups are taxed lower so that the tax collected can be used to fund these income groups so that they have access to basic necessities. Last but not least, government should enact price controls when necessary on critical goods to protect the lower and middle class groups. They should conduct investigations and regulations to prevent from increase of cost of living.
For our group recommendation, we have 3 recommend. First, the government should grow more local food like vegetable, rice and chicken. This will reduce dependence on import food and keep price more stable. The second one is people should be taught about the financial skill. Free workshop can help family learn how to budget, save, and plan for emergency uses, which will reduce their stress about the financial. Lastly, the government should create the cost of living index for each state. This will help them adjust wages and support programs to match the real needs of each area. This step can help reduce the burden of living costs and import people live in Malaysia.